Well, out in the field today, I have a 1948 Dodge truck that is a friend of mine, and it brings back a lot of memories, so I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. One, when I was a kid, my older brother, who's 10 years older than me, got a 48 Dodge truck as a project truck, and when they got it up and running, he let me drive it. And like I said, he's 10 years older than me, so when he was like 16, 17, he let me drive it down the highway, which put me at 6 or 7 years old. I was driving this truck down the highway, and I remember staring at that Ram over the hood, staring over that big steering wheel, which is currently out of this. My friend just bought this truck from a guy who said that it runs and drives good. Either the gentleman is ignorant on definitions and doesn't understand the words runs and drives, or doesn't know what the word good means. It's over here because the steering column is completely toast, or the steering box is completely toast. You can't even turn the wheel to get the wheels to turn. The wiring is so hodgepodged, we're going to rewire the whole thing. The motor does fire up and sound really great with an old flathead. That's pretty typical. But they're just great old trucks. But what brings me to the other side of this truck is back in early 2000s, I would go to a car show and see one of these nicely restored and fixed up. And one time I saw one about this exact same style, had really nice interior in it. Actually, it had Dakota seats and kind of more modern Dodge interior in it. And I asked him, I was like, oh, what do you got for a motor? Like a 318 or crazy 440 or something like that, or a big block Hemi or whatever. And he goes, oh no, the 318 wouldn't fit. I had to put a 350 in it. And I was so sick and tired of going to car shows and seeing a Dodge, a Ford, a DeSoto with a 350 Ford 9-inch. And I told him, he copped out. He goes, well, it was cheaper. It was a lot cheaper to do to put a 350 in it. And I just think it's an absolute shame to take an old truck like this, restore it better than new, and just have a half-ass engine in it. Which brings me to this. So in around 2005, I had a goal to build a truck for almost nothing, use nothing but Dodge parts, and build a truck. So I started with pretty much the exact same truck, except for it was a 1952. So the grill's a little bit different, but the rest of it, if you look at the box side and the moldings down the box, the fender, the way the fender folds over the front tire, the bend in the door, it's the same truck other than the grill. I picked up a Dodge Dakota frame for a couple $100 at a salvage yard, and I cut up a Dodge Dakota frame so it's got the independent front suspension, and I stuck this body on it. Now originally I was going to cut the rear fenders completely off. I was going to put great big huge tires on it. I was going to leave it all rusty and dirty and make it look kind of hodgepodgey. But then my wife came out and sat in it. She also had a little motorcycle at the time, and we used to go bike riding, and I asked her if she'd rather ride in that or her motorcycle, and she said this. So I sold her bike, took the money from the bike, put good brakes in it, put a brand new rack and pinion in it, put good steering in it, and made a very dependable truck. So people ask, where does Moparts come from? This truck is Moparts. As far as the budget build of this truck, things like this taillights. Those are LED taillights out of a trailer that are super glued behind the metal that was cut out and then siliconed in for a clear lens for LED strip lights. Cost all of $9. Some motorcycle taillights up here. The floor of the bed is actually out of an '88 truck. I'll go to here. The engine came out of my high school car, a '76 Dodge Aspen 318. The motor came out of that same car. I built this engine with my old man. Actually, my old man built the engine. Back when I was 15, 16, I bought a car for like $500 with a blown engine. He built the motor for me, and that was my car, and I drove it all the way up until I basically started building this. One of my other favorite components of this car is the big turn signals that go up on top. They used to be up here. I put the little tiny marker lights in. Those were actually on the car of my first car. You can't even see them when you're driving. I just think they look cool and they remind me of my first car. Then we have our lovely Ram wearing a bow tie as a sissy. Basically talking about if you have to put a 350 or Chevy drivetrain in something that's not a Chevy, you're a sissy. And if you look, it has absolutely plenty of room. There's no problems with it. I actually had the radiator sitting farther forward. I've had multitudes of different fans. Right now I've got a pusher instead of a puller. All disclosure, the one problem I have had with this for some reason ever since I built it, the motor does get quite hot. I've ran it without a hood, different radiators, different water pumps. She gets hot, and anymore, I don't care. I just let it run. Let her eat. The interior is actually marine grade vinyl put over the top of Dakota seats. The vinyl top, it went with no top for a long time, and then we made this top. It's removable and snapped on. It used to flap really, really bad, so I put fiberglass resin across the bottom of it. Gives it that fixed kind of soft look, but it's actually hard. And then when you're screaming down the road at 80 miles an hour, it's not flapping and it's quite enjoyable. If we look at our dash of years, 52 is the body. I also stole some parts off a 53 truck I had. The 77, 78, that's part of the Aspen and motor train. Honestly, oh, the 88 is the truck bed. 91 is the Dodge Dakota, frame. 97 is the Dakota seats. Gotta be honest, I don't remember what 2002 was. But basically, everything that's in this was used parts out of a junkyard that I threw together and made work. The only thing that's pretty much bought are the gauges. And they are absolute inexpensive. Basic gauges. Where the old speedometer was, I actually put speakers and actually have a radio in here, which is a Chrysler factory radio. And if you look, what's really kind of funny is this cable right here that's attached to this. What keeps this door closed? There's actually a lead weight on the back of the cable that pulls the door closed, that keeps that closed. When I built this, I had a whopping $5,000 into the entire truck. The paint job is all House of Color. And if you follow the veining, it actually follows the entire vehicle all the way through. It's really not that sunny or bright of a day. It's kind of overcast and cloudy today, so it's hard to see the colors and pearls and metallics that are in it. I actually sprayed this, wrapped the entire thing in one sheet of plastic, peeled it all off in one time to give it the veining. So all the veining blends completely into the fender as one piece. It's not splotchy or individual pieces and looks modelly. I then took an airbrush and airbrushed highlights into it, and then there's a ton of pearl and metallic in it, which when it's a nice sunny day it just explodes. I had this made. There again, where the Moparts came from. And if you look at our tag of my Moparts 52, that's been my tag for many years. Something else I've always been very proud of on this vehicle, a good friend of mine did all the pinstriping, and it's all under the clear, and you can't see a brush mark in it anywhere. He 100% freehands the entire thing. He's up there in age now and doesn't do the pinstriping like he used to, and I'm very proud to have something of his. Actually, all my vehicles, I used to have him pinstripe everything. A lot of guys will lay tape and follow the edge of the tape. He 100% freehands everything, or used to. There's not a high spot, there's not a low spot, there's not a blob where the brush comes on and off. Back in the day, I would have put him up against any of the greats as far as pinstriping is concerned. But this was basically my homage to a fun vehicle, slapped it together, had absolutely no rules, went and found used parts, and see what I could do with it. And I'm really happy with how it came out. We've drove the ton out of it. It's getting fall. It's actually why I pulled it out. I'm going to probably be putting it away here shortly. I completely finished it in 2006, which that was a few years ago. I have a few other photos and some things I want to show you, and maybe we'll take it for a little drive. Oh, here's another one. The original 52 was called Job Rated, and there was a carved in word there that said job, and I fiberglassed that in, took my Dremel and carved in the word fun, so now it's Fun Rated. And you can see lots of bugs and rock chips, and she's far from perfect. A few years ago it definitely was shinier and nicer, and plus we used to wash and detail it regularly. Now we just kind of wipe it off and take it for a cruise and just enjoy it. First 5-10 years of its life it got drove a lot, and we only take it out a handful of times anymore. Let's take it for a little drive. Now I'm a little over 6'5", so I'm quite cramped in this thing. I have to drive with my heels together and a foot on each pedal because I don't have enough leg room to actually get my left foot on the brake pedal. I can't even lift it. To do that, I have to grab my knee, pull my knee above the steering wheel to touch the brake pedal. So I just have to kind of leave my foot down over there, and I take my other foot and it kind of just touches the brake, and I just kind of touch the side of the brake right there to put my foot there. Like I said, I kind of built this more for my wife, and she is substantially shorter than I am, but let's give her a little frip. Give her a little pump, see what she gets. And she's not real loud. I've got a nice set of mufflers on her, so it's pleasant in the cab. Same reason for the speakers, so I could hear how it's running. Here's one of my girls. Love that one. actually drove all the way into my office because I had some things hanging on the wall I thought I would show. I had this cool little photo done when I was at one of the car shows early on. They took photos of it and then sell you the print. I was at another car show and the guy made that for me, which I thought was really cool. And then we were talking about the front end of the truck that says job rated. So that's what the original old Dodge truck looks like. And this was a cover of a 2013-14 phone book, so I ripped it out and kept it. But this is actually what that truck looked like when it was all tacked together. My lovely wife sitting in it, and it was just zippy tied and thrown on the frame and hatch-tagged. Like I said, I built it in my little garage, not a shop. This was just my little homemade garage at home. I built this entire thing a year or two. And then when it looked like that, I took it to little car shows and different events and put things online, and even like did sad stuff like this. In 2009, someone Mopar of the month, and I got a little letter in the mail and then some thing they put to it. And this is something that I find really kind of hilarious. As far as remember the whole thing, I built this to prove that you could use no rules. The entire thing's built out of like 10 different Dodge trucks of some years, all slapped together very inexpensively, all for fun. And then I entered it, showed it online, had pictures, and I even got a little feature in a reader's ride in the old Power Block Sunday morning TV show thing. And this is what I find quite funny about. So they had this, and then they had a whole little story. And if you read right in there, this 52 Dodge that was rebuilt from scratch includes an S10 front suspension, flared fenders, and a host of upgrades and custom paint and graphics. When I post photos and did everything of this vehicle, I explained that the main reason, the theme of the vehicle, was all Dodge parts, that it's sitting on a Dakota frame. You saw how those front flares are the exact same as the other truck. It's just how it's put together. And that's all in the letter that was put to them with the truck. And the stupid editor that typed it up still had to say an S10 front end, because that's what everyone does. I'm surprised he didn't say it has a 350 engine in it. Small little rant. I've kept it anyways, but whoever typed that up, you're a jackass. Sun actually came out and it turned into an absolutely beautiful day. And around here, for the wind not to be blowing is almost never, so the water's just beautifully clear and steady. Oh, there you are. So that's the little 52 Dodge. Hope you enjoyed it. I loved making it. I love driving it. You don't build it to drive it. Don't build it. One more view.